Hello and welcome to a pretty different and new kind of project now that we're done with Witcher. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, which is a pretty interesting game, and considering that recently, after this game has been out for nearly 15 years at this point, as I'm pretty sad to admit, there's talk about a successor coming out in 2020, I believe, 2020, 2019? I think 2020 was the goal, but I might be wrong. So I guess this is now a good time as any to take a look at the original game that inspired that particular game 15 years later, which, you know, would still be quicker than Half-Life 3 following Half-Life 2. Anyway, some of you might be wondering while I'm doing this in English, even though it's not a space game and all that. The reason is that for this game, simply no German voiceover ever exists. The game had a pretty interesting and, might I say, troubled development cycle that I don't want to go into too much, but to just give you the basics. It was one of the very first games that used Valve's Source engine. You know, the same engine that was used for Half-Life 2. As a matter of fact, it was the first non-Valve game that was going to use the engine, but that came with its own set of problems. Like because they weren't in-house at Valve, but a separate development studio, Troika Games, which was part of Activision at that point in time. They pretty much had to work with an engine that was still kind of being developed, and wanted it to be able to do things that they needed but didn't exist yet. So they had to modify stuff, and that, plus the game never really setting down on what kind of scope it actually wanted to do, kind of resulted into problems that basically a year or so before release, it was nowhere near finished, and it had to basically be rushed to the end because the publisher, Activision, wanted it to release. Thankfully, I almost have to say, it was eventually postponed because Half-Life 2 was postponed until later because there was this source engine code leak, and they had to make changes and all that. So Half-Life 2 was postponed. As a result, this game was also postponed because it wasn't allowed to enter the market before Half-Life 2 did. So it basically entered the market the minute that Half-Life 2 was released. And since even though it's focusing much more on the role-playing elements than on its action components, it wasn't really well received. Also because the game was released in a very, very buggy and sort of unfinished state that took a lot of fans literally years to fix. At this point in time, like 15 years later after the release, we can look at a game that works, you know, that doesn't have issues, and we can enjoy it for the flawed masterpiece that I think it is, especially because of the writing that the game has. But that's enough talk for now. Let's actually start it. The whole game is based on the role-playing scheme of Vampire the Masquerade. But it's a real-time action game, which the source material is not. You know, the source material has turns, you know, like, I don't know, Dungeons and Dragons, for instance, or whatever your favorite role-playing game is. So that was another major hurdle that they had to somehow overcome to kind of translate rule sets of a turn-based game into a real-time action game. And but they tried to stick pretty true to it, but it came with its own set of problems. Like, for instance, the game also features firearms that in the source you roll your attack roll against the defense roll of the opponent to determine if you hit or not, which is kind of weird to do in a shooter, because even if you implement rules like that, even if you hit in the right direction, you might still miss because the enemy evaded even though you didn't really see it happening, you know, which is always a little bit frustrating, you know, as kind of an action game. If you really hit someone but then you missed because there was a roll made that you didn't see. Anyway, the most interesting thing about the game, as I've already mentioned, is the writing. which is especially interesting because we now have to choose between 7 clans, 7 vampire clans, who all have specific focuses on abilities. And especially interesting about this is that one of the clans has a very, very unique dialogue scheme. Basically, there's dialogues for pretty much everyone, with reactions to the NPCs to that particular dialogue. And then the 7th clan, the Malkavians, basically have an entire separate reaction because they talk very differently than anyone else. And so as a result, also the NPCs react differently to anyone else, which is, you know, a huge time investment for what's arguably 1/7 of your possible gameplay choices. So that kind of gives you an idea of how, you know, they kind of didn't back down on reducing the scope of the game, but that led to other issues down the line. Anyway, but since Malkavian is pretty interesting because the dialogue is hilarious, especially for someone who does Let's Plays and likes to talk to himself and enjoys the sound of his own voice a little bit too much, I can't really resist, I'm sorry. So we're gonna play as Malkavian. Malkavians are known as lunatics because their ability to hear voices of insight and subject others to their insanity through their discipline demonstration. The world appears much different to the Malkavian than it does to the sane clans, although the extent of a Malkavian's madness depends on the individual. A blessing and a curse, the Malkavian's insanity will help or hinder them, depending on how much they struggle against their nature. Malkavians start with a +2 bonus to inspection, which doesn't really matter much. Anyway, let's also play male. Let's also take a look at histories. I don't think I'm gonna choose one. Swap priority order of your attributes. Yeah, I'm gonna go into that in a moment. Swap order. Don't think we know that. Definitely not gonna do that. Feeding yields less, but nah. Don't think that's worth it. Perv. Subterfuge cannot be raised. What's... Actually, that would not actually be that much of an issue, but who wants to be a perv, right? Oh Jesus, no! Please no. 100 stealth and brawl ability. No, we need brawl. Although, really, actually, we don't really. Actually, we don't. This might actually be an interesting one. Can never raise your wit higher than 3, but unless prone to frenzy. Nah. Whoa. No, let's not do that. Nah. And no, we don't need frenzy. Thank you very much. Ninja. Okay, can never raise firearms. Dark Anathema 2, yeah. Oh, the writing. Okay. Completely batshit. Okay. Okay, so... No, I also would like to have Obfuscate, to be honest. So, as far as I see it, I can either ignore history altogether, or we can try to be a little bit funny and do that. We don't really need to raise Brawl that much. I think we only raise Brawl in the very beginning, and then we'll just leave it there. So, I think that might actually work, to be honest. It doesn't really matter. We're starting without a history. Let's just make up our own fucking history. Anyway. Let's go next. Now, since we're in a role-playing game, we can now adjust our stats with which we start at, basically. So let's do our abilities first. We definitely want Brawl at 1 point. And then we need some security to start. And then here, I think we're gonna go Scholarship. And Finance? Sure. You can get things for cheaper. Might help. Specs. I love the disciplines of Malkavians. Anyway. Let's raise that to 2. And now attributes. No, we don't need seduction, but let's put 1 point into charisma or haggle. Since we already have finance, let's actually put it into charisma. Doesn't matter that much in the long run. And oh, I should maybe do some more explanations about things. Basically, the real interesting kind of values that we're using for what we're doing is everything back here, the feats. But the feats are basically combined by taking values of multiple stats together. So basically, let's say we want to see how good we are at using melee weapons in combat. You know, we would have to look at our strength attribute and our melee ability. Since strength is at 1 and melee is at 0, we have 1 point due to our strength. Yeah, unarmed is at 2 because I did put 1 point into brawl, so that's at 2. And so there's multiple ways to raise a stat. Like our persuasion is already at 4 because we both have put 1 extra point in charisma and 2 points in scholarship. So, yeah. That's basically how that whole list works. We're basically juggling points around here to increase points over there. Anyway, let's go with intelligence, at least 1. I don't know. Let's go wits, I guess. Don't really need a ranged or inspection right now. So, let's go with wits. Alright. You need a crazy name? No. We're just gonna go with a very simple name. We're gonna be Tom. Anyway, let's continue. As a slight note, there's going to be a lot of terms just thrown around in what we're going to watch. I'll explain some point of it later. Other than that, you'll realize it. Realize what all these terms mean later. Don't want to distract too much from what's happening, you know. But as the loading screen said, we're basically watching ourselves get transformed into becoming a vampire. Process that's reformed to as the embrace. What the hell? Alright then.
Good evening. My fellow kindred, my apologies for disrupting any business or interfering with prior engagements you may have had this evening. It's unfortunate that the affair that gathers us together tonight is a troubling one. We are here because the laws that bind our society, the laws that are the fabric of our existence, have been broken. As prince, I am within my rights to grant or deny the kindred of this city the privilege of siring. Many of you have come to me seeking permission, and I have endorsed some of these requests. However, the accused that sits before you tonight was not refused permission. Indeed, my permission was never sought at all. They were caught shortly after the embrace of this child. It pains me to announce the sentence, as up to tonight I considered the accused a loyal and upstanding member of our organization. But as some of you may know, the penalty for this transgression is death. Know that I am no more adjudicator than I am a servant to the law that governs us all. Let tonight's proceedings serve as a reminder to our community that we must adhere to the code that binds our society, lest we endanger all of our blood. Forgive me.
Jeez,
Let the
over-dramatized
penalty
much?
commence. Which leads to the fate of the ill-begotten progeny. Without a sire, most childer are doomed to walk the earth never knowing their place, their responsibility, and most importantly, the laws they must obey. Therefore, I have decided that...
This is bullshit!
If Mr. Rodriguez would let me finish, I have decided to let this kindred live. They shall be instructed in the ways of our kind and be granted the same rights. Let no one say I am unsympathetic to the plights and causes of this community. I thank you all for attending these proceedings, and I hope their significance is not lost. Good evening.
Alright then, I guess everybody just leaves.
Your sire, tragic, my apologies. But you see, there is a strict code of conduct that all of us must adhere to if we wish to survive. When anyone breaks these laws, they undermine the well-worn fabric of our centuries-old society. Understand my predicament. Allowing you to live makes me directly responsible for your subsequent behavior. So, what I'm offering is not generosity, but the opportunity to transcend the fate woven by your sire. This is your trial. You will be brought to Santa Monica. There you will meet an agent by the name of Mercurio. He will provide the details of your labor. I've shown you great clemency. Prove it was more than a wasted gesture, fledgling. Don't come back until you do. Good evening.
Have a good one, Prince. Alright. So we can move around. We can also see ourselves from the outside. I think we also have... Oops. That's not what I wanted to do at all. I think we also have some armor, right? Light clothing. Ah, I see. Our clothing only covers, you know, important vital areas down below.
What a scene, man! Woo-wee! Then they just plop you out here like a naked baby in the woods. How about that? Look, kiddo, it's probably a lot for you to take in, so why don't you let me show you the ropes? What do you say?
The Reign of Ages plot again to wash away Revelation.
What? Oh, man. And you're a goddamn Malkavian, too. Wow. You really are fucked.
So, who is this dark demon I see before me?
I'm Jack. What's important is I'm offering help. You make it back from Santa Monica with your hide and we'll trade life stories, okay? Till then, I got about this much time. You in or out?
I don't quite understand the play that they just gave to me.
Don't worry, kiddo, you'll adjust. I'd love to explain it all, but time's a-wasting. You want some help or what?
Alright then, I shall undertake your dark tutelage.
Alright. Why don't we, step out back here?
I am where I am, and that's on the Theater of Death.
Christ, it's stuffy in there, huh? This is much better. Now, we ain't got much time, but I figure somebody should fill you in on the bare bones stuff at least, you know. Could save your hide. You look wobbly.
Doing that.
You even had a drink yet?
Mother shan't be too pleased. None too pleased.
My minds don't seem to remember.
Oh, man, we're popping a cherry here. Oh, you're gonna love this. All right, check it out. Blood, it's your new rack of lamb, your new champagne. Blood, your new fucking heroin, kid. Get ready, though, because, hey, it's never as sweet as the first time.
Sweet like a prom date?
Well, down around the corner there, I saw this human. Poor SOB can't find his car.
So how do I do this dread deed?
All right. You go down there, casual like. You creep up on him, then bare those little fangs and feed. Don't worry if you weren't captain of the wrestling team or something, because it'll come so naturally you think you've done it 1,000 times already.
Will he then carry this curse in his veins?
Muscling robes
Forget
of
that
the
comic book
Reaper.
crap, kid. It don't work that way. Now go for it. Be sure, though, and this is important, so listen up. Be sure not to drain them dry, okay? It might be hard to resist, but don't kill them.
Then I go to drain the luscious liquid. Alright, since we're a vampire, we, require blood in order to use our more sophisticated abilities. And as you've just seen, our dialogue is hella weird. Also, we hear voices, you were not imagining that. You hearing voices is also an exclusive feature of being a Malkavian. And, yeah. Let's go and feed on that poor SOB. Alright. Excuse me, sir. As I said, we shouldn't drain him completely, so we shouldn't let the bar go all the way down to the left, but we might want to have a full blood pool ourselves, so that should work.
Yeah. Yeah. Hell yeah, you're feeling it. I can see it in your eyes. You're a born-again predator. Feeling that blood bubbling inside you, lifting you up. That's it, kid. That's what it's all about right there.
So spooky. And when do I choose the color of my cape?
Alright now, you got the blood, you're feeling all kick-ass, feeling better than your best day living, but wait, it gets better. All kindred, that's our word for vampire. All kindred have a few things in common. Things that set them right square above humans on the food chain.
Alright, tell me this tale.
Like sharper senses, a body that can take a beating, and if you play your cards right, eternal life. That's no sure bet, but still, a chance at immortality's not a bad deal. And that's just for starters. Fringe benefits for joining the club.
My lifeline will go on forever?
You can still be destroyed, but forget the books and the movies. Garlic, it's worthless. A cross? Pfft, shove it right up their ass. A steak? Only if it catches you in the heart, and then it just paralyzes you. Running water? That's no problem. I bathe. Occasionally. Now, a shotgun blast to the head. Oh, that's trouble, bro. Fire? That's real trouble. Sunlight? Well, you catch a sunrise and it's all over, kiddo. Get it?
Like a bad sunburn.
Okay, now. The fuck is this? Look, you get inside here and head upstairs. Meet up with me. Just gonna go see what the place is.
I'm going in. Okay, he said to go inside and then go upstairs. Let's do just that. Oops. Oh, look at this. Oh, how did you get in there?
Come down here. Stay away from the windows. Oh, It's a Sabbat raid. The Sabbat, they're, Christ, I was hoping to spare you this shit till later. The Sabbat, well, they're mostly mindless, bloodthirsty assholes. That's all you need to know for now, alright?
Where does this path lead?
The Sabbat got wind of the gathering here, so they figured they'd raise a little hell and put a little heat on the new prince.
Tell me more of the Jester Prince.
No time for political rundown. Job one, get out of here alive. Sabbat might be mindless, but they hit like a Mack truck, like raging savages. Nothing a fledgling like you wants to mess with.
If not the sword.
Shh, shh. Heads up. Back away. Dumb, frenzied Sabbat bastards. Alright, we gotta vamoose out the back quick. I'll stay and keep a watch out. You get us into the office. The door's around the corner here.
I shall invade this orifice. Oh, a door standing in my way. We'll fix that real quick. Did you just broke that poor glass? Oh man.
Shortcut. Well, nicely done though. Not exactly an angel in life, were you?
I certainly knew my share of demons.
Cool. Now if you want a lesson on how really not to act, take notes from those Sabbat assholes. You're a big bad vampire. Yeah, great, congrats. Now keep it to yourself. You go roar and you beat your chest and that's what you can expect.
Why need we hide our nature?
It's the same reason you don't let humans see you feeding. It's why the wolf doesn't want the sheep to know he's there. It's also why you don't go juggling dumpsters or outrun the 815 from Sacramento, and it's why you didn't know any of this when you woke up this morning.
My eyes are beginning to open.
Keep our secret and you make things easier on all of us. We're living in the age of cell phone cameras. Fuck-ups ain't tolerated. Makes sense enough, right? Well, it ain't a casual thing for a fledgling like you.
My mind is beginning to cloud. Shine a light and explain.
That party back there with the guy in the suit and the Magilla gorilla? The assholes that put your sire to death? That's the Camarilla. They make a tidy business out of enforcing vampire laws like this one.
Ah.
Alright, now don't worry, because I know the area a little. You know what? I'm glad we're in this situation, you and I. It illustrates a point. You gotta utilize your surroundings.
Paint me picture.
You do what you gotta do. Theft, destruction of property, breaking and entering. These will be the least of your sins before the night's out. So look around here. We gotta get out the back there through that magnetically sealed door. There must be a key someplace.
I shall seek this key. Alright, maybe I'll explain this one after I'm not explained any of the other ones. Basically, depending on what kind of area we're in, we're allowed to use some of our abilities or not. Because right now we're in a combat area, we can do whatever we want. You know, there's really no repercussions to doing it. We're basically fighting for our lives here. Then in kind of public spaces, we have to respect the Masquerade. Something that he was just alluding to, you know, to not make it too obvious who and what we are. And then there's also some special Elysium areas, which are basically neutral ground, where we're not allowed to use combat, and we're also not allowed to use our vampire vampire disciplines, except blood buff when we're lockpicking. So, yeah, in Masquerade areas, breaking the Masquerade can carry dire consequences, such as unwanted attention of vampire hunters. After 5 Masquerade violations, your game is over. Current number of violations is displayed in the upper right corner of the character sheet. Yeah, I know. Alright, so let's take a look at this picture. I don't know. Here's a safe, I guess. But it appears to be locked. Alright. Password chop chop. Okay. Password for this computer, maybe? Hacking combination of wits and computers. A field allows you to hack into a password. Yeah, I know. Okay. Well, maybe we can open the safe with chop chop. Alright. If you ever used MS-DOS, the computers here might be familiar to. Otherwise, you know, it's a bit weird. Alright, but let's open this safe now. And there's a keycard. Great.
There we go. Now take that keycard and head out the back. I'll meet you out in the alley there. I'm gonna check out things from topside.
I will do this deed. Alright, let's open that door. Well, we've been wounded. We were basically the distraction for him. Health regenerates over time, especially when we're feeding it regenerates really quick. If a health bar has yellow parts, then it means we have sustained aggravated damage. Aggravated damages take much longer to heal. And they're mainly done by special weapons and abilities and fire. Alright. Doesn't appear to be anything here.
Fucking waste of unlife, these Sabat vatos. You get winged? Hey, look at them potholes. Those will close up soon enough. Better feed, though. There's someone down the stairs here. It's not the freshest catch, but he'll do.
Does blood have vintage and bouquet?
Well, when it comes to feeding, it's quality blood you're looking for, not the quantity. Bums and lowlife don't pack the same punch that a healthy, well-bred human will. Juice bags with a pedigree. That's the good stuff. But you gotta take what you can get. You ever had a PhD, kid? Ooh, that's good stuff.
The thirsty rarely avoid an oasis.
Remember what I said, though. Don't kill them. At least not the innocent ones. You're a monster now. Make no mistake. One of the damned and the fallen. You need to hold on to every last shred of humanity you have.
What if I drained him dry?
An innocent's an innocent. You kill one, even a worthless bum, even by accident, and it's gonna cost you a piece of your own humanity. Bring you closer to that beast you got welling up inside you.
Silence the sermon. I go drink the darkness.
Alright, now go feed. Careful, though. He's gonna drain fast.
Aye, aye. Yeah. Sir? Ugh.
Not quite as good, huh? Eh, you could do worse. There's some rats down the way. You think I'm kidding? You can survive feeding on animals if you can stomach that kind of thing.
Ugh. This snack tasted that your breath smells.
Now, give it a try.
I need to floss the flannel for my fangs. Yeah, we can also feed on rats, though it's really kind of a last-ditch kind of thing that we don't want to do too much because it's just almost pointless. Anyway.
You rat sucker. Hey, I don't care what you do, but just so you know, polite vampire society looks down on that kind of thing.
Etiquette demands they pass me the salt for my rodent feast.
Keep it down. Got someone around the way here.
Oh, sorry. Only one?
Not too much of a threat by himself, but you never know if there's more in shouting range. You're gonna have to sneak past.
Where should I sneak?
The building across from us with the garage door. There's some double doors on the far side. I'll meet you inside. Just stay low and stick to the shadows. And don't let him see you.
Now you see me. Then you don't.
Alright, go.
Go on. Alright, we can also sneak, which we're probably going to be used a lot. Sneak mechanic in this game is actually pretty decent, gotta say, because it depends on the light that is around us, how good we are at it, and all these kinds of things. I'm gonna save here real quick. Technically, we can also increase our sneaking abilities by using obfuscate, which really makes us invisible. So let's use that. As long as we don't move, the timer is also not running. You know, we can just stay here and we'll just remain invisible through obfuscate, which makes things a little bit easier. And there's our guy over there. Let's wait until he moves over here. Okay. Been seen? Okay. Interesting. Okay, we equipped our weapon. We also became visible there for a sec because we interacted with something. Just move on, there's nothing here. Alright, I was just not patient enough to insta-kill him. Anyway. Oh, there you are.
Keep it quiet. They're inside here. Seems that shovelhead outside just got separated from his pack. He's wounded too. Go take care of him. Don't worry. He's probably greener than you.
But how can you see his shade from here?
The Sabbat, you see, they don't have the most rigorous training program. In fact, that poor sod is lucky if he knows he's a vampire.
My own green paint is still fairly fresh.
He's probably just turned and beaten over the head. They like to do that, make shock troops, cannon fodder, put him out of his misery.
Well, I had turned him to ashes already.
That's that. Sounds like you got another pack moving in, though. The Sabbat are going all out. You better head underground, avoid stray bullets.
Sounds like a fine plan to me.
Alright, head down into the basement through the grate in there. Keep that tire iron handy. I'll be there in a minute.
Alright.
Stop!
Combat is not the only solution for sticky situations. You can also use the feats and disciplines in the dialogue. Depending on what kind of dialogue option it is, it has different font types, you know. Red indicates that we're using our special dementation abilities, and also how much blood it costs, depending on how many dots there are. We can also try to persuade, or use seduction, or intimidation.
You! Just stay back. Keep your distance. Now who the hell are you? You involved in all this? Because I'm gonna radio this in, and SWAT will be all over this place.
I did nothing, but the good guys would bring the bad guys down here.
No. Well, I left my radio in a Caprice anyway.
So can we go now?
Yeah, okay. Alright, this way. This will lead us up to the warehouse. We can maybe sneak out that way.
Follow me not if you want to live. In position to perform a stealth kill with this icon. The use key. Or left, okay. Oh, that was what I was confused about, because I did use the use key, but nothing happened, kinda. Goodbye.
Not sure what's going on. Sounds like the Sabbat's getting scattered. I'm gonna keep an ear to the ground. Be careful going forward here. Could be a whole mess of them holed up.
More fun then. Anyway, speaking of more fun, we'll continue our little adventure of trying to escape here in the next episode. So, I'll see you next time. Have a good one.